As I was talking about heat map, okay, so heat map I can do find some correlations between the different features using CORR function of data frame, and I will see that okay how these various uh, parameters or various fields are having some kind of correlation. Okay, so this we can explore more with some relevant data maybe later on. So I can just have little different effects here. um, cool cool wow. Okay, yeah, okay, yeah, this gives you the better representation where the all the red indicates that they have strong correlation, and or the dark blue have no correlation at all, and the moment we go towards the red one, so that indicates some correlation. Excuse me. Okay, so this is another type of plot where we can see the relationship between the various features or various data points in the exploratory data analysis. Okay, so in exploratory data analysis, before that let me talk about something about the data. Okay, what is data, what data in the data science means, and what all things are important for us to know, right? The important thing I want to highlight here is the data is of different types here. So structured data and semi-structured and unstructured data. Okay, the structured data is usually into the databases or the CSV or the Excel sheets. And the semi-structured is XML, JSON, YAML. So all these files, they have a particular structure, but these are not readily accessed, right? So we need some kind of processing before we really use such a data, and such data is called semi-structured. There is something called unstructured, so images, videos, text, IoT data, health reports, diagnostic reports, the text files, all this data is unstructured data, right? Many times the audio also, video also, images also. So such a data we need to convert it to a proper format. Okay, so that is what is called the data. Okay, let me make you understand. There are a couple of a few jargons before we really work with the data. There is something called univariate and multivariate analysis. Okay, so what is univariate? When we want to work with a single feature, single variable, right? There is something called dependent variable and independent variable. That means if suppose I'm talking about predicting or understanding or analyzing the data of, let's say, crop yield. Okay, and there are some features based on that the crop yield is varies, right? For example, if there is a rainfall, there is a temperature, there is a humidity, so these are some of the features. So based on the value of these all these variables, so rainfall, temperature, humidity, etc., right? So there is a the value which we can derive is a crop yield, right? So for example, if we have adequate amount of rain and better temperature, humidity, which is good for the crop, so we can see that okay, we have a good crop yield this year, right? So in this example, crop yield is a target variable or dependent variable, and all other features are independent variables. Okay, so when we want to uh, you know uh, we have a dependent variable which is a function of independent variables. So such an analysis is called bivariate analysis. And when we have a single variable, so that's a single univariate analysis, which we have already seen with the help of some of the statistical tools like the bar chart, or maybe some mean or median, standard deviation, or some plots. For that matter, we can do some using some pie chart. So we will see how our data can be used there, right? I'll take one example of pie chart. And here suppose I want to get city wise um, some numbers. Maybe I'll take engineers or the these days the coronavirus where we are talking, and maybe the number of detected cases or the confirmed cases. So whatever values we want to use, right? I'm just using arbitrary numbers. Let's say I will go with this data. Let's say I'll just take few cities, okay, and let's say um, I take engineers, okay, so we don't have good numbers and I don't want to go with some higher numbers with corona for sure, right? So let's say 315, 235, 236, 277, anything. I mean, I'm just getting some numbers here to try to plot, okay, using pie plot, okay. Plt dot pie, we can use that, and let's say engineers I use, and labels is equal to cities, okay. And if I want to plot such a pie plot, this looks like this, right? So it has done all the calculations, and accordingly so the pie for each city is plotted here, right? So it could be a little bit more informative as well. So there is something called auto PCT argument, which I can use to calculate the automatic percentage wise segregation, and probably I can put the percentage on the graph itself, okay. So there are many options for you to explore, but for now let me just do this auto PCT and I will see what it gives. Okay, look at this, I got the percentage on each slice of this pie chart, okay. So there are many options to work with. We can work with the different colors or our own combinations, or we can use some explode option to pick some slice out of this pie. We can use different effects or multiple graphs we can plot. So that is what is all about univariate using pi or mean, median, standard deviation, which we have already discussed, and also box plot, okay, we have already tried to understand, and we have done something with that using multivariate and univariate analysis, okay. So yeah, this is about univariate. Yeah, here is another example you guys may want to refer. So there are different plots, histogram, like bar chart we have seen. So box and whisker already we have discussed about, and there is something called multivariate analysis. Okay, so where we have multiple variables to consider and analyze that. Okay, so now let me continue our exploratory data analysis on, let's say, Titanic dataset, which we have already imported, and we have just started to understand what all things are there and what all things are important if I want to process this data as a data science engineer. Okay, so what we want to do with this data? Okay, the very first question comes is, what is this data all about and what we want to do? Okay, suppose this is a Titanic data set and we have the historical data that, okay, how many people survived and how many people have not survived. Okay, so this is the information already we have. So this person has survived, this is survived, this is survived, this is not survived, this is not survived, and so on. Okay, so with this data what we can do? Okay, so that's important to understand, to analyze.